Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoyed the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook?
The listeners are not in person, but we're in person today, which is reasonably rare, isn't it?
Can't see us, can they?
No.
We've been in the office today for a team meeting.
Indeed, yes, and we're just looking forward to some food at lunchtime, which is really good news. But good food, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good food.
Absolutely.
We don't do anything else like that, do we?
I feel a little bit relieved because normally I normally buy the team lunch, but we had a work experience lad who's kindly treated us to a delivery voucher, I think. So
fantastic.
What a result.
Yeah, thank you very much, work experience lad. So if anybody else would like to send anybody on work experience, they're more than welcome to come along.
I was going to say,
particularly if they bring a voucher. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, he's a good lad. By all accounts, he was a good lad. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet him, but by all accounts, he was spot on, wasn't he? So
he seemed pretty spot on, mate. So and as we record this, I'm feeling a little bit anxious because we've just run the team meeting, and I'm about to, after recording these, I'm about to head up to Old Trafford to watch United v Liverpool after 2 straight losses against Brentford and Brighton. So I don't really know what to expect tonight.
Prawn sandwiches.
Well, yeah. The
Old Trafford, you'll definitely get prawn sandwiches. Yeah. And long they got watch them because they might be too curly at the end and they might be a bit off.
Do you know what, mate? I'll tell you what. I think the catering's come on since Roy Keane was there because it's not prawn sandwiches anymore. Literally, they put on a feast for you. If you're in the executive suite, it is literally amazing. So you've got. Normally roast beef, pies, curry. It's amazing. You just help yourself. So
that's fantastic. Well, I hope they serve up some decent football for you, or a decent result.
To be fair, Liverpool have only managed to draw twice so far.
I can be the complete neutral here because obviously being a Pompey supporter, we had another great win at the weekend. So
did you?
Perhaps in the Premiership one day again.
I took the kids to watch Posh, and they've just come down from the Championship, and I tell you what, they look like a great team in League One. Yeah. It's like they need some league in between Championship and League One because they give Lincoln City an absolute hiding.
Yeah, we've got they're one to watch actually this year, but it's a tough old league, that League One. Sheffield Wednesday, Derby, and the rest. Ipswich, Charlton. There's some really good sides.
There's some former big names in there, aren't there?
Big names in there. So let's see what May brings. That's you never know.
Okay, mate. So. Right, today we're going to talk about MMR then.
Yeah, MMR. It's not a jab that you get when you're a youngster and prevents. I think MMR is measles. Is it something to do with measles, isn't it, MMR? But in the training
measles,
game,
mumps and rubella.
That's it.
I think.
Yes, because
I've just got my phone out to Google it.
Yeah, to Google it. You've got younger children than I have, but measles, mumps and rubella, MMR.
Boom! I got it right.
Yeah, well
measles,
done.
mumps and rubella. Children should get 2 doses of the MMR vaccine, starting with the first dose at 12 to 15 months. And the second dose 4 through to 6 years. MMR.
This is a public health service as well as as well as a podcast. So MMR in the training world, then my mate reckons, and we always get and we've always had these historically on training courses. You've got somebody who will sit there and say, my mate reckons that if the driver's name's Steve and it's the 3rd Wednesday after Lent, then he's allowed to drive 16 hours a day because he used to do Saudi Arabia. And you get this mythology that is brought up. But I think the reason we want to discuss it, or we decided this would be a good discussion, was the advent of these Facebook groups and what have you. Very, very good. I mean, fantastic resource for lots and lots of people. Obviously, we pump the flagship group or the Fleet Geeks page. And come and join that network. But we've got some great. I quite often. I'm not going to mention them by name. They know who they are. But some of the groups have some names on that I will always look at and think, well, if that's their opinion, that's really good because they are solid in their approach to that. But Herbert Whatifs or My Mate Reckons. Why are there so many people? My question to Pete was, why are there so many people out there? And it may be that they are genuinely looking to, shall we say, open the envelope or stretch the envelope in terms of what you can and can't do. And maybe they're exploring that sort of thing. But why are there so many people out there looking to bend the rules or find a loophole? What's going on? You know, what's the...
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I think in from a training point of view, and Facebook's amazing for the odd keyboard warriors and stuff. But I think there's this thing about knowing that there's a lot of people in the industry who like to think that they know everything there is to know. And it's funny because I think people will probably listen and go, yeah, but you two are on a podcast making out like you know everything. The day I know everything will never happen, because one thing you learn is as you learn more stuff, you realise that you know nothing. I think it was Socrates that said that, wasn't it? Yeah, so this is all part of a learning journey for us. So part of doing the podcast is being able to share ideas, share thoughts, hear other people's thoughts and things like that. And I'm forever learning and getting corrected. It isn't so long ago that I had to make the admission that I'd got working time directive breaks wrong, and we had to edit a podcast for it. So, I'm more than happy to be proved wrong, proved incorrect. But there's a lot of people, I think, in the industry who like to, I don't know, be keyboard warriors when it comes to Facebook or in training, for example. You always get the village, the village is missing their idiot because they're in your driver CPC course.
Yeah. I know the other thing that frustrates me with forums, particularly online forums, is somebody will ask for a piece of advice and the person, somebody will respond with, well, you should know that, or what kind of idiot doesn't know that, or well, obviously if that person doesn't know it, you only know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. So it baffles me why would somebody would want to make a response in a negative like that when you're supposed to be there trying to help each other out. So that does baffle me somewhat. But they are a source of... they're a great source. I think the online forums, as I say, there are certain people I'll look for their response. But I think Pete's got a...
I'm busy
looking for a genuine
I am. I'm looking for examples. And I've just found...
No names or Patrick.
Well, I've got a guy called Mike 4 days ago on one of the forums has asked, is there some sort of template you can use? Yeah, it wasn't you, but someone has advertised the podcast. Is there some sort of template you can use that allows you to give your TM the authority to check licenses as opposed, spelled APOSE, to just sending in a short email so he has something in writing? 21 comments, of which one of them, big shout out to Mark Vokes. The lads over at Fleet Geeks have a good podcast episode on this exact topic. Based on their findings, only agencies can be mandated to legally undertake DVLA driver licence checks on a recurring basis, and he's copied in a link for the Apple podcast link. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, big shout out to Mark Vokes. Thank you very much, mate. But there's a few different answers there, but I'm looking specifically for an example where people have asked a question and sometimes you just get such a range of responses. Mark a few days ago, hi all, reporting employee drivers offences to TC. We did a podcast on this not so long ago. Never come across with it. Does it include every single offence or any particular group codes? What is the procedure? Any forms to fill in? Would appreciate any tips who experienced it, or Gov website with explanation as a support. Thanks a lot. So hopefully, there's a range of stuff here. Gary, if you breathe, sneeze, cough, fart, pick your nose, scratch or rearrange themselves, they must be reported immediately. Your O licence will be curtailed by 94% and the fine will be 7 times the company turnover for each offence. No idea why people want to operate trucks. I'm assuming Gary had his tongue in his cheek on that comment.
Well, let's report him for it. I think that needs to be reported. No mirth or merriment to be made by people on groups, otherwise we'll report it. Statutory document 47 says that you're not allowed to do that, so don't do it.
Jackie's written, any offence needs to be reported, retraining would be advisable. So disciplinary from a file note onwards, depending on if they are a repeat offender. Awareness courses do not need reporting. I always find the comments that there's a distinct lack of, okay, well, how many times? When do they become a reoffender? There's sometimes a little bit of detail missing. Don't just notify of the offence. Mock up a template investigation incident form. What happened? Details of the investigation. Then a quick, short and sweet letter to the OTC saying X happened. Please see attached report.
Not a bad shout, yeah.
Yeah, not a bad shout. Gary, I believe it's any offence. John, instead of reporting, why not retrain, educate the drivers first?
Perfect.
Helpful comment, John, but actually you do have a duty to report it.
There is, statutory duty,
Mandy's corrected him because it's the duty to be reported, and if not happen, may then have further repercussions.
But valid, very valid. Training is always very valid.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. Flagship Partners offer a range of consultancy and training services to ensure that our customers remain compliant and have the best possible knowledge to be able to fulfill their work. If you're interested in support with any of our safety, HR or compliance services, or you want to train to be a transport manager or need driver CPC training, give us a call today.
So Stuart has kindly commented on here, only for offences in vehicles used for work. Turfit said he didn't want to hear about small offences like speeding that happened outside of work.
Just a reminder, folks, it's the licence, not it's the licence that's in question. The driver's conduct as a driver, not necessarily as a driver of a car or motorbike or a lorry, but their driving licence is so it doesn't really matter where the offence occurred. But
I think it's a tricky one, but what I must say is you must definitely tell the traffic commissioner if your driver's been found guilty of using his phone whilst he's driving it, whether it's his personal car or not. So that's my bit of advice on that. Yeah. So, like I say, I think there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you sort of get varying levels of stuff on the responses. So it's important to find a forum. I guess I'm going to round back to sort of promoting the Fleet Geeks peer-to-peer mentoring, because you sort of round back to getting this rounded approach from a group of peers.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. It's a lot of this is a lot. You'll even hear solicitors and transport barristers. We're very, very careful not to be specific because it's all a matter of interpretation. And a lot of law is like that. It's a matter of interpretation. Has it been interpreted by a traffic commissioner in the past? Has it been interpreted by a court in the past? Because that gives us a case law. But in lots of cases it hasn't, or it's been a long while since that was challenged in a court. So a lot of this coming back to my mate Reckons and the Herbert Whatifs. A lot of it is you can't give a black and white answer. It's very, very much case specific and very, very much open to interpretation. And as Pete said there, it's coming back to again, not pumping it too much, but the Fleet Geeks network. You're speaking to a range of people. So if you sort of take it as that range of people believe you should be heading in this direction or that direction, then that would be the direction of travel you need to be in.
And I think the important thing to remember is that people will only ever share. So when people share a post on Facebook, or they share a question in a driver CPC forum or wherever it may be, they are only communicating that from what I call their frame of reference. So when I speak about a frame of reference, just to draw people a picture to sort of understand what I mean by that, is if you imagine you're looking outside of a window which has a pane and walls around it, and you're just seeing part of this bit of information which is your frame of reference. So you're looking through a picture frame or a window at an event that's occurred. There's lots of other stuff or factors that will contribute. So often on a Facebook post or a question on there, people need to ask more questions than actually is the information that's available, which sort of reiterates the point that Mike's just made. One of the things we do in the peer-to-peer group will be someone shares a question, or they're not sure about something and need some help. The first part of the exercise is actually we ask a load more questions, because what we often find is it's almost like the 5 whys when you're trying to do a root cause analysis, because you start off thinking one thing's your problem, but actually after you've asked a lot more questions, it becomes something totally different.
Absolutely, yeah. That's too true, isn't it? And it's always there's something more underlined. You can't in a line or two of text, you can't work out and then give somebody chapter and verse on what it is they're asking, because quite often what they're asking is hidden behind that. And that may come back to what I was saying about why is everybody exploring loopholes, and that might be a factor of that in there somewhere.
Context matters.
Context absolutely matters. Yeah. I follow several things online. If you've listened to the podcast, I've got an interest in law, and I listen to lawyers and solicitors all the time on podcasts, and they will never be drawn into specifics. It's very general, because that's all they can do. People, if they really, really do need that specific legal advice, it would be to take legal advice. If they just want an opinion or help, assistance, pointing in the right direction. I think we're all here to help, aren't we? But definitely the Fleet Geeks network will push you in that right direction without giving that sort of specific to the letter, because nobody can.
Yeah, I think it's actually interesting, and I think there's a space for this in the transport manager world. And that was last year when I studied my health and safety qualification. I did a level 6 health and safety qualification. It was offered by NCRQ, who are the National Compliance and Risk Qualification Group, and it was their level 6 diploma, which competes with the likes of the MVQ and the NEBOSH diploma. And interestingly, the NCRQ is a really good option for a lot of people who are in work, and they're using it as case studies and that kind of thing. And actually, the whole ethos of that qualification was totally away from NEBOSH, which is you learn a load of content and then you take an exam, which is very similar to the Transport Manager CPC. You learn a load of information and then you take two exams. And what NCRQ does, which is slightly different, is that you have 3 big textbooks which you work through, and they have a load of case studies where you go and complete the case study, and you have to write essays and what have you. So it may not work for every transport manager, but actually I think there's a space for what the NCRQ system did. Was the case study was actually to go and revise a subject. So you were given a subject matter and you had to go and revise, and it might have been a particular case in previous law, or you had to go and find out about a previous case that had occurred, or a prosecution that had occurred, and you had to go and find all the information you needed, and what law applied and what regulation, and you needed to apply that, and then you needed to make a decision. And what you weren't being marked on was the advice you gave. You were being marked on your homework, your due diligence that you did.
Your research,
because sometimes the right or the wrong answer is in the balance, and actually it's a subject of personal preference, or it might be, the reason why one traffic commissioner might make one decision and another traffic commissioner might make a different decision, and it's based on the evidence that's available to them and then the frame of reference that they put that under. But essentially what that qualification did was it taught me about where to go and find all the health and safety information I needed to be able to make an informed decision on things, rather than having to ask other people or consult with stuff. And I think that's a really valuable skill for people to learn, and actually maybe that's something we should focus on training transport managers to do, and that is to go away and be able to carry out their own research.
Yeah, and come to their conclusion within the context, as you say, within the context of their operation, within the context of the type of trucks, the type of, it's you have to look at it in that sort of round, don't you? You can't always take things to the black and white. That's the problem.
No, absolutely. And I think trainers up and down the country on a Saturday stuck with the old MMR, my mate reckons, putting a trainer on the spot. I think it's a tricky situation to be in, isn't it? And I think generally speaking, I tend to try and do a diversion tactic.
Absolutely. Look out the window, it's raining. That normally works for me, and then they've forgotten about it. They've gone into a big sort of tirade about if the driver's name is Steve and it's the third Wednesday after Lent, and by the time you've got thinking, I don't know where this is going, so let's change the subject. Oh, it's raining.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, and I'm going to say that a lot of I'll certainly get kicked out of the trainers union for this. An awful lot of trainers walk into a room and they have a lot of knowledge, and I don't doubt that, and I'm saying, probably vast more knowledge than I do in lots of cases. But what they do is they go into a room and they think, right, all that knowledge, all these things I know, I'm going to blast through and give these people all that knowledge. In actual fact, they don't want that. They need to know what they need to know. Tell them what they need to know. but do it. In a manner that is a bit more sort of conducive to them actually picking something up, rather than just sort of bombarding a load of numbers and facts, figures, and all the rest of it at them. Try to make them think rather than just give them a load of information. You may have that information that they don't need to know necessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really valid point, and something I've certainly come across with a lot of trainers in the industry. This and the mentality is almost similar to the MMR, the My Mate Reckons, which is, I know everything, so I'm going to share everything I know with you. And I like to be the cleverest person in the room. I think it's sort of that same mentality that we need to try and move away from. And the way I tend to tackle with stuff like that is, that's really interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. And I'll have a look at that. Have you got a question off the back of it? And sometimes there isn't even a question; they're just sharing something. And I'd say, well, I'd need to see some sort of material to back the validity of that claim.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So there we are. That's My Mate Reckons. There's a bit more to it than meets the eye, isn't there? And I think that's that's in everything we've said there.
Yeah, and I think the big question for listeners is, what's the best My Mate Reckons that you've ever heard? What's the best one? Because I'm going to do some thinking between now and when the podcast is edited, and see if I can share the best My Mate Reckons that I've heard. Please do the same.
I'll give you a starter for 10. The classic one that we hear quite a lot is that if you're sat in the driver's seat when you're having your break, Vossa will come along and give you a ticket because you've got to be sat in the passenger seat. I've heard that if I'd have had a £5 for every time I've heard that from a driver, and sometimes from a trainer, I'd be able to buy lunch next time. So.
Oh yeah, to be fair, you've just come up with one of the common ones for me. Yeah. That 10th hour is up to me to decide if I'm going to use that 10th hour or that extra 2 hours for a reduced rest. That's my time if I decide that I'm going to do that. I can tell you categorically that the DVSA have made it very clear that the rules are the rules, and planners can carry out and plan you for whatever is deemed necessary, so long as it's safe to do so.
But we'll end it on this. What if the driver's name is Steve and it is the third Wednesday after Lent? Bit different then, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We have to check that one out. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Be pleased to hear your comments. Please do share with your friends. Thank you.
See you on the next one.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.